Hello, everyone. I'm Pamela Marshall at the Wellness Radio TV and at the Wellness Radio TV podcast. Welcome. It is the season, the holiday season, so I hope you are safe and healthy and well wherever you are. I really, really thank you for joining us for this episode. Count on it. You're going to be blessed. My guest is Dr. Tamia Bethea-Williams in New York City. You know what, Dr. Bethea-Williams, I love the fact that I am able to talk to people all over the world. COVID, the upside to COVID is it stretched me in what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here with you all tonight.
Dr. Tamia Bethea-Williams, originally from the Carolinas, right?
Yes. Latta, South Carolina, a little smaller town. When I was growing up, we had one stop sign. That was about it.
Latta, South Carolina.
Latta, South Carolina. Mm-hmm.
And now she is a mogul, a business, an entrepreneur, an author, a mom, a motivational speaker, and most of all, she's a child of God, which makes
Amen.
her very special to us because we know that that's the source of all that we're able to do and accomplish. And God has certainly been with you. And congratulations on recently finishing your PhD, Dr. Bethea-Williams.
Thank you. Thank you so much. What a blessing.
Yeah. And for women who are watching, sometimes we can be so overwhelmed with our day-to-day lives, all of the responsibilities that come with being with who we are.
Mm-hmm.
We as African-American women have been answering that call since we arrived on the shores of the Americas, and we were doing it on the continent. So many African-American women who were leaders that we don't hear about. And so with all that you had on your plate, running a business, being a motivational speaker, on the road, as we will talk about your son who has special needs, and you were able to go back to school to finish your PhD. Inspire these women that are watching right now who feel like, it's too late.
Yeah. Well, I recently did a talk, Pamela, and the talk was about what is in your garden. For a long time, I would think that everybody was better than, and everybody could do this or they could do that because of their situations and their circumstances. And I used to always feel that I could never, ever, because of my situations and my circumstances. And when I learned that I get to create my own Garden of Eden, when I learned that I get to create my own garden, the things that I want in my garden, and those things will grow with the power of thought, with the power of speaking, I began to do that. And as a result, I'm telling you, ladies, the sky has truly been the limit. There is nothing that you cannot do when you put your mind to it. The two of those things congruent, just like the word of God says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And so it starts with thought. It starts with thought. If you can think up a thing and you can hold that thought and really believe in what it is that you're holding, it will materialize. It may not look like it. You may have a whole lot of stuff that happened in between, but I promise you, it will be worth it. I am a living witness. Who would have ever thought?
Well, how did you get to it? When did you start? And how recent is it that you completed it? Your PhD?
Well, my PhD? Well, I think it's been now about 7-8 months.
7 or 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, we really could have had a party because you're still in I mean, I'm so excited for you and how inspiring that is going to be and is for so many women who feel like it's too late, and it's not too late. So how did you get back to it?
Well, you know what, Pamela's actually, I have 2 doctorates, and I did all of that. Yeah,
Look
in
it.
the past year, and when COVID hit, all the things that I had put on my list of things to do, I began to look at those things. And I said, now is the time. All I had to do was to write 2 dissertations. And I did it. I got them in, and I completed what I started. And so it was years in the making, but I kept putting it on the back burner. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. And because of COVID, I was able to really, really sit down and just get it done. And in getting it done, I passed both of them first time around. My professors loved my dissertations, and that was that. And so I'm super excited about having a PhD in psychology and counseling, and then also having a PhD in metaphysical science, also psychology and counseling. And so I was able to accomplish getting 2 doctorates during this time, while everything else is going on around me too. So
Wow.
God be the glory. Yep.
Oh, that is so impressive and so inspiring. And your advice to women is decide it, say it, believe it, write it down, and start moving. As a man thinketh, so is he.
That's it. All of that. All of that. Pamela, when I know for me, myself personally, when I was growing up, when I would ask my grandmother, my grandfather, because my grandparents raised me. I know you probably not familiar with the story, but it's all written here in my book. I was blessed with angels. I wrote it for several reasons, but one of the things that I got out of it is I got healing out of it, because I was a very angry young lady for many, many years. I was angry at the fact that my mother died when I was 7 years old. I was angry at the fact that my father was incarcerated for double murder when I was 9 years old. I was angry at the fact that my grandparents, who raised me after raising 21 children, 11 of their own, and my grandmother, 10 of her brothers and sisters, she had to help raise because her mother died due to alcoholism. And then here I was, number 22.
Wow.
And I was angry at the fact that they were older and they could not go to events that I was a part of. When I made the cheerleading squad, they could not go. They had so many other things to do. And so here I was now 16 years old. My grandfather passed when I was 14, and my grandmother when I was 16. And I ended up, Pamela, with a family that my grandmother adored. And it just didn't work out for myself and that family. And so the next thing I found out is, and there's more details, but I'll just share this piece with you now. What I found out is I found myself actually on an Amtrak train with $50 in my pocket. And the advice was, don't become a prostitute and don't get on drugs.
You were 15, how old?
I was 16 years old
16.
when this woman dropped me off at Amtrak in Dillon, South Carolina, and put me on a train. All I had is $50 in my pocket and terrible memories of the things that my grandparents had told me about in New York. I sat there for 13, 14 hours holding my urine because I was afraid to get up. I was afraid that somebody was going to steal my bags. I was afraid somebody was going to harm me. I was just afraid. And then I ended up at Grand Central Station, and I got off there. And that's when I thought things couldn't get worse. That's when they really got worse. And so I had to battle through some stuff. The lady that I was living with when I came to New York, this woman, she and her husband, they stayed upstairs. She had a 2-family, that was not a 2-family, but it was a 2-story home. And her daughter stayed upstairs, and her niece stayed upstairs. So they found a place for me, and that was in the day room, like outside, but it was a room that was attached to the house, but there was no installation. It was very cold. And so I was there. I didn't have a door. And so what I did is I created a door. I took some string and I sewed together a piece of material, and I hung it with a little nail on the side, and I would take my time and open it and close it. And I still remember that. And the only reason why I went away to college to start with, because I had no intentions of getting a degree. I definitely had no intentions of getting 2 degrees, 2 masters, and 2 doctorate, no intention at all. My thing was, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. That's who I am. Growing up, I remember making sweet potato pies, selling sweet potato pies, making homemade cakes, freezing Kool-Aid, selling it. That was me. I was that little girl. I was my own little cosmetologist. People would wash their hair and do their hair. And so I didn't want to go away to college. But when I was offered the opportunity, my response was, how am I going to get there every day? I can't drive back and forth every day. I don't even have transportation. How am I going to? And he said to me, Tamia, you get to stay on campus. I said, what? He said, you get to stay on campus. I said, so what are you saying? Where am I going to stay? You get a room. And I looked at him and I said, with a door. And he said, yeah, with a door. I said, I'm in. And Pam, let me tell you something. My goal was to go there, stay there for 10 years. I didn't know. That's too much I knew about college. I didn't know it was a 4-year deal or a 2-year deal. I said, I'm going to stay there for 10 years. I'm going to save my money. And then I'm going to move on and do my own business or whatever. Didn't happen that way. Because in my second year, ladies, I got pregnant. I was told by my grandmother that you're supposed to keep your frop down and your bloomers up. She never told me why. And so when I got the chance, I did the opposite. And as a result, I got pregnant as a sophomore in college. And so at the end of my sophomore year, I had to make some decisions. And I decided I'm going to get my degree either before I have this baby or I will have it before this baby is 1 year old. Because I knew that I was not going to be able to do all the things I wanted to do and at the same time take care of a baby. And so God would have it, not luck. God would have it that I'll be able to attend Stony Brook University, Suffolk Community College, as well as LIU Southampton campus, all at the same time. Not at the same exact time, but those classes that I needed, they were just some out of the blue made available when I made up my mind that this is what I was going to do. And I worked 3 jobs all the way up until they made me quit. I worked in the library, I worked at the drugstore, and I worked at the grocery store. And so when people come to me and they say, you know, Dr. T, Coach Tamia, I can't do it. It's too tough. You're talking to the wrong one, because I know that in your DNA, there is something called win. It is in each and every one of us. And I'm going to tell you, I did what I had to do. It was not easy, but I did it. I graduated with my bachelor's in 3 years. Wow. And the baby was right there in the stroller with her father's family, and she was 4 months old. Okay. And just when I thought that was going to be the end of all of my stuff, I should say. And many of us, we think that, you know, that it just keeps getting worse and worse. No, you just keep growing and growing. Yeah. Worse and worse. You just keep growing and growing. Yeah. I'm going to tell you, I waited 4 years to get pregnant with my second child. And this is what Pamela was sharing with you all in the beginning when she introed me. Let me tell you, she said that I have a special child. So true. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. I waited 4 years to get pregnant. I didn't want to have children back to back. I saw what happened when you have children back to back. I wanted to have my children at least 4 years apart. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I wanted to be able to pay their tuition one child at a time. My thinking was they were going to have to pay like I paid. My thinking wasn't, oh, they're going to get scholarships. They're going to work hard and they're going to get a free ride. No, that wasn't my thinking. I'm thinking to myself, wow, it's going to cost a lot. It's costing me a lot. These loans are really, really heavy. So let me get myself prepared to take care of this. If I'm going to have 2 or 3, I'm going to do it 4 years apart. I got pregnant right on time. I knew I was due in January, and I knew it was a boy. I knew he was healthy. I carried him full term, no complications at all. I was in a hospital when I gave birth to him. By the way, I was born in the house. All 21 of my aunts and uncles, great aunts and uncles, were all born in the house. They were all healthy babies. My grandmother and her mother didn't have any episiotomies, any epidurals, any pain medicine. They had to have those babies.
No C-sections.
And no C-sections. They had to have those babies. And here I was in a hospital in New York, the big city of New York. And I only had 1 centimeter of water left inside of my womb. And guess what? They had to pull my son out with forceps because it was a dry birth. It was really, really unbearable. And I discovered then that he lost oxygen at birth. I had been, my water had broken. I had been leaking all day and didn't know it. I just thought maybe when I laughed, it was a little urine or whatever. I didn't know. And when I got there, instead of them doing an emergency C-section, they induced labor, and this is what happened. I was told that my son would be severely mentally, and they used the word retarded. Now they are not allowed to use that word. They use disabled or mentally underdeveloped or whatever the case might be. But it was predicted that he would never walk, he would never talk, he would never feed himself, he would never go to the bathroom. My son, who is 27 years old now, was in diapers until he was 11 years old. It was not easy, but the growth that took place in spite of the circumstance, in spite of the situation, was worth it. Today, when I look at my son, I'm amazed at all of the things that he's doing that was predicted he would never do. He walks, he talks, he goes to the bathroom, independent of myself and anybody else. If I were to tell you that he can have a conversation with you the way I'm having a conversation with you now, I'd be being dishonest. He cannot have a conversation now the way I'm having a conversation, but he speaks. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so, I have to attribute a company that I'm associated with, a company called Enagic, that I am a distributor with, and I am a leader in that company, been with that company for 15 years. And one of the things that I noticed is that when I change my son's water, Pamela, it's like, wow, it's amazing at what happens when you give the body what the body understands.
Let me just say, Dr. Bethea-Williams, Dr. Bethea-Williams, for those who are joining us, and I thank you all for joining us. I thank you for liking and sharing with other women. Start a watch party. My biological sister, Sharon Benjamin, is watching from New Jersey and commented, "Say it until you see it." She said, Bishop Harvey Lewis from Washington, D.C., star of Bethlehem, Church of God in Christ, used to say that. Just say it until you see it.
Amen. Yes.
Natalia Faust, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, she is an Enagic distributor.
Hey.
In Orlando, Florida.
Yay!
And my good friend Elois Waters, who is a retired educator, and she is quite a winner herself. Ladies, everybody who's joining, I really, really appreciate it. And your story is just amazing and so inspiring. The fact that you were in New York City with nothing. As a 16-year-old, going to college, not even knowing what you were getting into on your way to college, thinking that you could stay there for 10 years because you had a room with a door on it. And when I think about some of our children today who have access to way more than they need and living beneath what they could be doing, your story is just incredibly inspiring. And so you have a child who, as you said, lost oxygen.
Yes.
And his life changed. How long have you been giving him the Enagic water?
I've been giving Damien's been drinking this water for 15 years. He's 27 years old now. He started when he was 12 years old. And I didn't understand really how this would work, but I trusted the person that introduced it to me, Anna Wilshire. And the reason is because she's a woman that was in a wheelchair. She was not able to do the things that she wanted to do. And when I saw the transformation that took place in her body, and when I began to speak to a lot of the Japanese distributors, especially the owner of the company, Mr. Oshiro, I learned why these things were happening for people, especially myself. And let me share this with you all. See, when you were actually created, when you were made, when you were conceived and implanted in the walls of the uterus of your mom, that water that surrounded you, that amniotic fluid, is alkaline. It's alkaline. And so every single part of you developed in alkalinity. Your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, your skin, your liver, your heart, your lungs, it all developed in alkalinity. And so people say to me, well, to me, is it possible that you could be too alkaline? Ask yourself, how could I survive for 9 months in that environment? And then when a baby is born, when a baby begins to drink from their mother's breast, that milk is also alkaline. And then what do? We introduce them to what the doctor says. You can start giving them water now. And a lot of the water that we're giving our babies is very acidic. You can start giving them juice now. A lot of it, they add a lot of stuff to it, preservatives, sugar, they're boiling it, and they're killing all the enzymes. And now the baby is getting that too. And so now what's happening is all of a sudden the body is now trying to neutralize all of that acid. And so because the body is becoming very acidic, ear infections come upon the baby and diaper rashes and all kind of stuff as a result of our diet. And so now you come and you meet someone like the young lady who's a distributor here tonight. And they tell you about this phenomenal technology. You think to yourself, well, it's just technology. I mean, what's the big deal? It's such a big deal that it's approved as a medical device in Japan by 6,500 Japanese doctors. It's such a big deal that it's used in hospitals to treat patients in Japan. And so I understood what happened in my son's body because I gave him what he understood. I gave his body what his body understood, and his body responded just the way my body responded. Because the lady you guys are looking at tonight was about 100 pounds bigger when I I was 268 pounds. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but that's only 32 pounds away from 300 pounds.
All day long.
All day long. And it was not easy carrying around all of that. And so I got a byproduct because I didn't get the machine for me. I tell you, I didn't get it for me. I figured, hey, I'm from South Carolina. I'm a big girl. We big bone. You know, that's how we do it. We eat everything. and it showed up on me. It showed up on me. And when I started drinking what my body understood, my body responded accordingly. That's why I don't tell people the water cures you, the water's going to heal you. No, I cannot say that. I cannot say that for legal reasons. I cannot say that because I'm not that kind of a doctor. I can't say that. But what I can say is this. When you give your bodysuit, when you give your bodysuit what your bodysuit understands, it will respond accordingly. What a gift from God.
And why did you believe, what made you believe that this was going to help your son, that you had been given diagnosis that did not look like anything that you had envisioned for your precious baby boy?
I tell you, I had tried everything. People have sent me products from Africa. I have products from Europe, England, London. I have products from Mexico, you name it. I tried just about everything, oxygen chambers, you name it. And I would see progress. And then all of a sudden I would see regression. It's like I could see the difference in my son. And then all of a sudden, it was like he would go right back to where he was or even further back. And so when I changed when I decided to use the water, I said, what do I have to lose? What do I have to lose? I have everything to gain. What do I have to lose? I try it. If it don't work, it don't work. But when I started seeing what was happening, and when I understood what was happening, I'm telling you, I went to work, and it was so worth it. It
So
was really, really worth it.
tell
Yes.
me this, as a young mom, for other mothers who and fathers and siblings who may be watching, who have a child or loved one in their family with a, a disability, what was it like for you when you had to come to terms with what the doctors were saying was going to happen to your baby?
Pamela, I also, which I share in the book as well, I went through a divorce. Um, and it wasn't easy. In some cases, you're really fortunate when you have the mom and the dad that come to an agreement that this is what it is, and together we can get through it. But sometimes one or the other, they have an issue with it, an issue of blame, an issue of embarrassment, an issue of shame, an issue of guilt. And for me, I knew that there was an issue. I knew that there was an issue, but I also knew that there was an answer, because I learned that there is an answer to every question. And I learned that there is a solution to every problem. I just didn't know what it was. And so for a long time, me being the human version of myself, I didn't want to take Damien to birthday parties. I didn't want to take him to family gatherings. I didn't want to ask people to watch him because I got tired of hearing, no, we'll watch Siobhan, his big sister, but we can't watch him. He was always him, never Damien. I was embarrassed when I would go to a grocery store and he would go to the bathroom on himself. And now I got to leave everything behind. And I got to go and get him straightened out and pray when I get back. They still have the milk with the expiration date that I wanted on it. They still have the eggs with the expiration date I wanted on it. These kind of things. And so I went through all of that. And then I realized, and ladies, I want you to really, really, and gentlemen, I want you to really, really hear me here now. I realized that this was given to me, not for me, but for the audiences that I would speak to someday. And I don't know why, but I get the feeling that there's somebody out there who really understands what it is that I'm talking about. And they're glad that somebody is saying something, because until you've dealt with it, until you've gone through this, it really is hard to understand. It really is hard to understand. And that's why I believe that God gives special children, to strong people. Really, really, he really, really does. Because I'm telling you, it was not easy, but it was worth it.
Yeah, you said that, people referred to him as him, and it was difficult. When people have their babies and how old were you when he was born?
I'm 52 now. I was 25.
So 25, not having had the greatest start in your first 25 years of life.
Yeah.
On top of all of those things, then a special needs child. People are, quick to pull out the phone and go through the many, many pictures, or, 25 years ago, 20, 25 years ago. He's 27 now.
27, yeah.
So we walked around with the little pictures in the book. How was that for you? You had the experience of a child that did not have any complications. And now, Damien, how did you manage that psychologically? And then probably somehow, as you said, the blame of feeling like I should have known, or somebody should have told me. This could have been prevented had I known. How did you manage all of those emotions?
Pamela, it was by the grace of God. And I say that with certainty. And I'm going to tell you all why. Because there was times when I felt like making a decision, a permanent decision to a temporary situation was a good thing to do. I contemplated suicide more times than I care to remember. And it truly was by the grace of God. It was always for me when I got to a place in my life where it was just too much. It was always someone that would show up to help me, to assist me. And I was able to, through the assistance of others, to accomplish the things that I've been able to accomplish. Damien has always had, I've always had, thank God, and Damien, of course, housekeeper as a result of the hard work that I had to put in, because I was a school teacher when I got pregnant with Damien. And I had to leave my job as a school teacher because I had to make a decision. Am I going to continue to teach school? And every time they called me and my son needs me, you need to change your clothes, or I need to pick him up, he's not doing well, or whatever the case might be, I have to ask for permission. And sometimes it's yes, and a lot of times it's no. I had to resign. And I did resign after 9 years teaching school. And I left my job as a school teacher and I pursued multi-level marketing, direct sales, when I was only 24, 25 years old.
Really?
Doing it full time. Yeah, I've been doing it. That's when I decided to do it full time. And I've been full time in it now, going to be 28 years come January, full time.
Really?
Yeah, I was able to work my buns off and generate some serious income and pay people to help me that would have helped me for free. That's the kind of help I had. And I thank God for that. Because having no mom, having a father that was incarcerated, both my grandparents passed away. I'm an only child, no brothers, no sisters. I sought help outside of myself. And the help that I attracted was the exact help that my son needed. And so God has been with me on this entire journey and still with me here today. What you don't know, Pamela, is that I'm also a minister.
No, I do know that.
You did know that?
I can hear it.
You didn't know that? Oh, you could hear it?
Oh, yeah. I could hear that. I could hear that.
I'm pastoring a church.
I didn't know you were pastoring.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So God has truly been good to me. And that's something that I had to get straight during this COVID time too, because I've been running from that assignment for a long time. And finally I said, you know what? Enough is enough. And I'm sure he said enough is enough. So here I am today. Thank God.
So where is your church?
No, I don't pastor a church. I have an organization called Heavenly Abundance. And I am working with the one and only Bishop Dr. Glenn John out of Brooklyn, New York. And we are working on, got a whole lot going on. We started an organization called Unity Without Walls, not an organization, but a group, a community for those that just want to worship Monday through Saturdays, 8 a.m. in the morning to 9 a.m. in the mornings. And we have speakers that come on all the way from Antigua and speak to the listening audiences. And it's amazing at how so many people have been empowered and so many have decided to run the race, because so many have given up. They don't know what to do. And I'm telling you, the power that's in you, the power that's breathing you is greater than anything on the outside of you, including COVID-19.
Well, since you brought it up,
yeah.
Since you brought it up, when we, and you're in New York, where in the beginning of COVID-19, your mayor, your governor, having to step in and make some very difficult decisions about shutting down. And of course, the numbers are surging again. How are you guys doing? How are you doing?
Well, we're doing absolutely amazing. And we have been since the beginning, and we still are. We have a humidifier in our store, and we fill that humidifier with 2.5 water. And 2.5 water that comes from our devices is a disinfectant. And we don't know what it's doing, but all we know is that we do that. I just decided this is what we're going to do, and that's what we do. And we put it on, and I'm telling you, we saturate the air with that 2.5 mist. And people come in and they say they can feel the difference, they can smell the difference. I'm there in it, so I don't really smell any difference. I don't really feel any different. But all I know is that we're okay. We are okay. And I strongly recommend those that are listening, if you know anybody that's in Enagic, if you know an Enagic distributor, ask them for some 2.5 water. It's hypochlorous acid. And that 2.5 water is a very strong disinfectant, and it's safe. It's safe. If I were to drink some right now, it wouldn't hurt me. It's safe. I can't drink bleach. I can't drink Lysol. And so when you spray it on your hands, when you spray it on a shopping cart, when you spray it on the door, when you spray it on a piece of fruit, you disinfect it, and it's safe. And so I encourage you. I strongly encourage you to get some of this water, and it will definitely make a difference in your life. Just try it. Just try.
So yeah, and especially with the numbers and that we're African Americans are 2.6. We have a 2.6 greater chance of dying from this virus, and all of our underlying conditions that play a role in that. And then there's something as simple as a 2.5 water that can help people, but also about talk to people about the need to strengthen their immune system in every aspect, so that not only are they warring against COVID, but all of the other things that are impacting the cells in our bodies.
You see, just as I said to you earlier, Pamela, we were made in amniotic fluid. That's what we developed. And that fluid was alkaline. The breast milk that we drank was alkaline. And when we came out, we were healthy, little bundles of joy. Everything was functioning and working the way it was supposed to. And the older we got, the more exposure we got to acidic foods and acidic beverages, the sicker we became, and the sicker we became. Why? Because our bodies were constantly trying its best to neutralize the acid. And so our immune systems were powerful. We were able to take shots, and I'm not an immunization person by no means. I just have to say that. But we were able to take those shots and build even an even stronger immune system against certain things. And so it's in you. It's in you. Give yourself antioxidants in every way, every shape, and every form. Load your system, load your family with antioxidants. You know, Bishop Dr. Glenn John turned me on to a product. A product is called Shield, and it's out of Mexico by a company by the name of Artis. Yeah. And this powder helps to support the immune system. Why? Because it is loaded with antioxidants. It's loaded with antioxidants. There's other products out there. Turmeric. Okay. I know Enagic makes an Ukon that also loaded with antioxidants. And I know that it is because of the way that it is made. I was at the factory in Japan. I witnessed the way that it was made. I witnessed the way that the machines were being put together and all of the testing that they go through before they even show up at your doorstep. I saw it. And I also saw a lot of women in their 80s and their 90s that were working, had jobs in the factory and outside of the factory that was separating the spring Ukon from the autumn Ukon. and so forth and so on. And people that are living to be over 100, 110, 115 years old, and they're healthy, they're vibrant. Why? Because they are loaded with antioxidants. Antioxidants, they take care of free radicals and a whole lot of other stuff going on in your body. It helps the body to return back to the way that it was, to return to origin. And so it's important for us to understand that what you're putting in your system right now is extremely important. Extremely. Drop the sugar. Drop the white flour. I tell folk all the time, eat Ezekiel bread. Eat Genesis bread. You can go to Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and now sometimes in Walmart they have it in the refrigerator, in the frozen food section, and you get it. All it is bean sprouts, and it's healthier for you. Cut out the white rice. And so these things that we're doing is causing our bodies to have to fight harder to neutralize that acid. And the less we give our bodies to do, and the more antioxidants we give our bodies, the better chance we have of fighting off viruses and things of that nature.
Dr. Tamia
Yes.
Bethea-Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
In New York City. She is an author, an entrepreneur, a child of God, a person of the clergy, a motivational speaker. And you have a store, speaking of being an entrepreneur, you have a store in Chicago. It's not just that you have a catalog or a website, you actually have an Enagic store in New York City, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So let me just say this, as I'm listening to you and your powerful story, your powerful testimony, while during those times when you thought about committing suicide because of the challenges that you were facing, your all the losses in your family, your father being incarcerated, having to be on your own in New York City at 16 years old, then at 25 years old, being faced with having to quit your job because you had a special needs child, and the devil making you think that you taking your life was the solution to what you are going to accomplish, that suicide was the solution to what God had for you to accomplish in what you're doing now. And, for people who think that, you were, because of your circumstances, you were just like forced into multi-level marketing that sometimes people look at and go, that's kind of woo, 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 and Amway and Avon and all these other names that people hear. You didn't have a choice.
Mm-mm. What else was I gonna do? I had bills to pay. I had 2 children at that time to raise. One of them really, really needed my undivided attention. Was in special schools before he could even walk. And so I didn't have time to throw pity parties and times to be on the phone gossiping and talking about my situation. I had to do something. And I went to work. I didn't allow people saying no to me to stop me. I didn't allow the frowns on their faces to make me feel like I wasn't worth it or I wasn't worthy. I went through it. I went through a whole lot of no's, but I got to some yeses. And because I got to those yeses, it changed everything. The first company that I partnered up with was with Mary Kay Cosmetics. Oh, wow. Many years ago. Did very well in that company. Won a pink Cadillac, not because I was after a pink Cadillac, but I was able to accomplish those things because I was hungry. I was really, really hungry, and I was willing to do what I had to do to take care of myself and take care of my family. And so when people say, well, this network marketing thing, this multi-level marketing, direct sales, I don't know. I get it. I can understand that because a lot of people are told a whole lot of lies. They're told that you're going to get into this thing and you're going to become a millionaire, right away. And you're going to be able to do this, going to be able to do that. That's not always the case. It's not always the case. But remember, you're writing your own story. This is your story. And so whatever you're doing step by step, I promise you, if you keep stepping, you're going to get somewhere. You are going to get somewhere. But when we quit, when we give up, when we throw in the towel, all because of somebody else, then we have just relinquished. We have just given up all of our control. And that's not who we are. That's not who we are. I was just telling a client not too long ago that yes, you have a body, but your body is not you. You have a body, but it's not you. There's more to you than just your emotions. There's more to you. And anybody that's out there that's thinking to themselves, you know what, I don't know if I can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But once again, you have to decide. You got to decide. I want this. I want this. And as I said earlier, we all have an opportunity. We all have an opportunity to create our own Garden of Eden. You have an opportunity to put whatever you want to put in it. But one of the things that you dare not touch, and that is doubt and negativity, because those things will slow you down. And that's what happened to me when I started to toy with failure, toy with doubt, toy with fear, toy with feeling like I wasn't worthy, or I wasn't good enough. My English wasn't good enough. And coming from South Carolina, I used to talk a little bit different than I talk right now. I know that many of you say, this is she from New York. I'm not from New York. I live in New York. And when people hear me talk, it's like, what part of South Carolina? What part of South you from? And it's like, can you hear it? And they're like, yeah, we can hear it. And so
I can't.
You can't? Oh, wow. Get out of town.
Well, no, I can't.
Really? Okay. Well, a lot of people can. And they let me know very quickly that they can. And so the thing,
I don't think they're telling the truth. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. I would speak very, very fast. And I would say things like I'm fitting to go and things like that. I'm going down to Pam house, and people didn't understand me. And so I felt like I just wasn't going to be good at speaking to people. I wasn't going to be good at talking in front of people. I just wasn't going to be good at anything. Because I had been in an abusive relationship, not physically abusive, but sometimes the mental abuse, I said but sometimes mental abuse is worse, in my humble opinion, than physical abuse. But being with somebody who said that they love you and they really, really care about you, and they're telling you that you're fat, you're ugly, you're dumb, you're stupid, you're from South Carolina, people from the South are this and people from the South are that. And after a while, you start to look at yourself and say, well, maybe they got a little something. Maybe they're right. Just maybe. Mm-hmm. And that's when that doubt comes in and that fear. And then those thoughts of suicide and those thoughts of just giving up and just quitting. You can't do that. You just cannot do that. Just know that there's a calling on every single one of our lives. There's a calling. There's something that we are supposed to do. I don't know what your something is. You may not even know what your something is right now, but there is something that you are supposed to do. And I guarantee you it's so powerful that the enemy will do whatever it can to seek, steal, lie, try to devour you, try to get you off of your game, so that you can be another one that just went to the grave and took their purpose right there with them. Don't be that person. I was almost that person. And I'm glad that I did not allow myself to go that far. And I said, I thought about it, and I did. I did a whole lot of times. But I recently learned, and I say recently, I'm talking years ago, that I have something called a defense mechanism, and the power that's breathing me don't allow me to go backwards. Allow me to look in the past, but don't allow me to walk in the past. Allow me to have a past, but don't allow my past to have me. And there is definitely a difference.
The power. I was going to ask you, what did you feel like kept you from giving up because you didn't have grandma to call, you didn't have mama to call,
Mhm.
you didn't have other siblings that you could reach out to. What kept that little girl from South Carolina going in the midst of all of this?
In the midst of all of it, in the beginning, I was a very angry person. I was very angry. I was bitter at the fact that my mother died. I was bitter at the fact that my father got himself into trouble and would be incarcerated for the rest of his life. I was angry at the fact that my grandfather made promises and then he died when I was 14, and my grandmother at 16 years old. I was very angry at the fact of a lot of stuff that had happened in my life, and it made me strong, but in a dangerous way. It hardened me. And I want y'all to really, really hear this. It hardened me. It hardened me to the point where I had built such a thick wall around me. I couldn't even reach inside and comfort my own self.
Mm.
That's how hard I was. And I'm going to tell you, it wasn't until I actually started to really look over my life and to really understand that I am not the author of life and death. I don't decide who gets to stay and who has to go. You know, and I just felt that everybody was just doing stuff to hurt me. And that wasn't the case. It was not the case. So I had to overcome some stuff and really grow through stuff and understand, do my best to understand every little step. And as a result, I was able to tear down those walls, and I was able to come out of being secluded, isolated, mentally secluded and isolated, and to make myself visible and vulnerable and share what happened to me so that others would be empowered. Others would be able to see my life and say, well, if she can do it, I know I can do it. Because, a lot of us, Pamela, we have stories. We all have stories. But the sad thing is those stories have us.
Mm. Mm.
We all have past.
Mm.
And the sad thing is the past still have some of us.
Mm-hmm.
We sleep with the past every night. We get up with the past in the morning. We walk with the past during the day. We go to sleep again with the past. And then we think that everything's going to be all right. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's okay to have a story. Like, I have a story. Okay. I have a past. Okay. I have a history. Okay. But I learned, and this is when the walls came down, that story, that past, and that history did not have to have me. It did not have to have me. It was okay to be a motherless child. I remember, Pamela, when I was growing up in South Carolina, because my mother died when I was 7 years old, when it was on Children's Day. All the children, we had to wear carnations. And if your mother was alive, you wore a red carnation.
Mm-hmm.
But if your mother was had transitioned, you get a white carnation.
Mm-hmm.
I hated Children's Day.
Mm.
I hated it because I felt like, why did anybody have to know?
Mm.
This white carnation on my little sweater. Once a year, I had to deal with that once a year.
Mm.
And I hated it. But you know what? And when I look back on it, it's like every year I got a little harder, but it was more to come through. And I was able to grow through it. And now when I look at children that don't have a mother, children that may have a parent that's incarcerated, children, a woman that may have a child that's mentally disabled, a woman that may have been in an abusive marriage and went through a divorce, a person who didn't want to get an education but decided to get an education. I mean, you name it. All of the things that I've had to grow through now Because of those things that I grew through, I can help so many other people. My purpose was it was actually a definition that wasn't written yet, if you can understand what I'm saying. It was things that was happening. And then when I got to a point in my life, it all came together. And I said, wow, God, who would have thought that having a special needs child will put me in a position in a company where I have over 100,000 machines sold?
Wow.
Who would ever thought? Who would ever thought that because of my past, I would be the author of not one book, but several other training manuals as well? Who would have thought?
Wow.
Who would have thought? And so we hold ourselves hostage because of something that we said or something that we did. Let it go. Let it go. And keep stepping. As long as you keep stepping, you're going to end up someplace. But the minute you stop, you are still. And that ain't still, this ain't proper English, but still ain't never got nobody nowhere. I just want you to know that tonight. Okay, you got to move. You got to take action. You got to do something. And when you do, you will be rewarded.
As the scripture that says faith without works is dead.
Amen, sister. Talk about it.
The Chinese proverb that I like that says, as you pray, move your feet.
Yes.
And you are such an inspiration and such an example of that. You could have quit. You could have given up. You could have said, I'm done. This is too much. This is too much for one person. I've had enough. And you kept stepping. You kept moving. Wow. For those who are listening and watching, was there one thing in particular that cracked the wall, that started to bring the wall down so that you could be open and receptive to what God had called you to be?
I had to get out of my own way.
How were you in your way?
I was in my way because I was blaming everybody and everything around me for what had happened to me. And I was in my own way. And when I began to look at myself instead of looking at everybody else, and the moment I decided that I was lovable, I was worth it, that I was somebody. I wasn't fat and ugly and stupid because I was from South Carolina, but no, I was smart, I was intelligent, I was good looking, and I could be anything I wanted to be. When I began to turn the eyes off of other people and turn the eyes on myself, me looking.
Wait a minute. Okay, so what happened that you started doing that? That you started that inside work, because that's where the work needs to be done.
I'm going to tell you. When I was in college, Pamela, I would fight in a drop of a dime. I tell you, when I say I was angry, I was angry. There was a professor by the name of Glenn Sujay, and out of Southampton. And he called me and he said to me, he said, why are you so angry? Why are you so angry? I said, I don't know, because I had suppressed so much. And he began to talk to me and counsel me. And he said things to me, and he introduced me to books that I had never heard of. Authors that I had never heard of, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and just to name one of the many. And I began to open up.
Ever Joseph Murphy, Power of the Subconscious Mind?
Murphy, yes. I think The Science of Getting Rich. Yes. All of those books. And I began to open up and to the possibility that I really could do something with my life. I really could. I could do whatever I wanted to do. I could be whoever I wanted to be. I could have whatever I wanted to have. I just had to change my way of seeing things. Take the eyes off of other people and focus on me.
Mm-hmm.
What it is that I was called to do. Not being angry at everybody who did this or did that. There's another book called A Course of Miracles. And it says that whenever somebody somebody does something to you, or to hurt you. They're doing it either out of an expression of love or a call for love. And when I examined all of the things that happened in my life, it was majority an expression of love or a call for love. And so it softens you. It softens you. You become a compassionate person. My mother was abusive too. My mother, and it's all in the book. She was very abusive. She used to beat me for every single thing. And I never mourned her death. And even when I was in college and I was talking to Glenn Sujay, I had never mourned her death. I was glad actually that she had transitioned, because when I learned that she could not get up again, I felt like, you know what? She can never beat me again. She can never scream at me again. She can never curse at me again. I'm safe now. So I had never mourned her death. I just always thought it was the evil lady, that didn't raise me, that I ended up staying with my grandmother all the time. And my grandmother ended up raising me. And when I got older, I realized that my mother was only doing the best that she could with what she knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgave her as an adult. But imagine holding all of that in. That's why so many people get cancer and high blood pressure and diabetes, especially women of color. Why? Because we hold that stuff inside.
Yes.
We just hold it in for years and years and years. And I decided, nope, I am going to just let it out and let it go. And that was the beginning of noticing that somebody was noticing that I was a very angry person. Because I'd been angry for so long, it was my norm. It was my norm to be mad all the time, to have my face frowned up all the time. They always have something negative to say. It was my norm. And so it was a part of me. I had adopted that whole thing. And then when I was called out on it, I said, but maybe he got a point there. Maybe I need to check myself,
Yeah.
And I began to look at my life. And it's never been the same. It's been growing. I became a master at body and brain training. There's so many things happen as I was working on me. And I'm still working on me.
Well, that is
yet to come.
Say that again. What's that?
My best has yet to come.
Your best has yet to come. You talk about being angry. My sister Sharon wrote a poem about our mother. She wasn't an angry Black woman. She was just sad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I hope you will look at that.
I will.
Yeah. And, just the whole story of African-American women in this country. And why was your mother beating you? What was her pain that was never dealt with? And because, she died, you never had a chance to have that adult kind of conversation with her to find out what was her pain.
Right.
But we all should know that anybody who's doing anything that hurts us, they're hurting first. And so if you can see people through the love that God has for us, and that's why the scripture tells us to pray for those who despitefully use us.
Amen. Yes. Yes.
Because that's our role. That's our calling. When we know God,
yes.
When we know God and we have experienced God's love, it is our responsibility to share it with others. And Dr. Tamia Bethea-Williams, an author, an entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur, a store in New York, an Agic water store in New York with that healing water. And if you have a store in New York, your numbers got some zeros behind it. High five. Praise God.
Amen.
Glad to know you.
Yes. Yes.
Keep inspiring us. We are going to do this again because you hit on some topics that we could have done just one show on that particular topic. But before we go, you have your book, An Angel with Me.
I was blessed with angels.
I was blessed with angels. So how can people get your book?
They can go on Amazon. It's there on Amazon. I was blessed with angels, Tamia Bethea-Williams. So they could go to Barnes and Nobles as well. And there's a few other bookstores that have it. But most people go to Amazon. And I promise you, when I see you, I will autograph it.
Yay. And so look, and so for people who are interested in putting this great healing water as part of their regiment, you know, we sometimes think that what we need on the inside is something that we would not, you don't take a bath in, sorry, Starbucks, Kool-Aid,
Ah, yes, absolutely.
McDonald's sweet tea. Why would you bathe your cells in it? So when people who are interested in finding out more about this very powerful water, that did I tell you that I had lost my taste and I started spraying the 2.5 in my mouth twice a day and my taste has returned. I have two sisters. I'm going to send them some. I wish I could find somebody that had a machine in Chicago and Jackson, Tennessee. How would I be able to find that out?
Well, I'll put it out there on Facebook. Send
Okay.
me a text. I'll put it out there on Facebook because I have quite a few distributors in Chicago.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. And so we could see what we can do.
Yeah, to see if it works for them. I mean, it was very emotionally debilitating trying to eat and you can't taste anything. There were times that I just wanted to throw my plate across the table. Like, what for?
Yeah.
But with this water, you know.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Your body understands it. That's the reason why you had the response that you had. And so we don't have to try to understand it. You don't have to understand it. Just try it.
Well, yeah, kind of like Epsom salt water. Nobody can figure out why Epsom salt water, sitting in Epsom salt, will help draw the soreness and the acidity in your muscles that reduces the soreness. They don't know why it works. It just works.
You got that right. Speaking of that, let me tell you what I did one time. It'll make you guys laugh. I had all of these snails and I wanted to get rid of them. And I just took a bag of Epsom salt and I just poured it all over the lawn so they couldn't be crawling onto the walkway. I woke up the next morning, Pamela, and I had mushrooms like this outside. Mushrooms all over the front yard. And I did not understand. I did not understand why I had mushrooms. And then I realized only thing I did was put the Epsom salt. So this Epsom salt, I don't know what was in it, but all I know is I had a ton of mushrooms all over my front lawn. I said, if I was a mean person and I had a terrible neighbor, boy, I could really, I could make them mad. But anyways, yes.
That was so wild. Did you get rid of the snails?
I was trying. No. And so anyway, they were still doing what they had to do. But the lawn, I had to imagine picking up just overnight. Overnight.
That is too wild.
I'm telling you.
I wonder what did it do in the pH balance of the soil that allowed the mushrooms to come up?
I don't know, but I know that dirt is alkaline. Soil is alkaline. Soil is alkaline. So I don't know what I don't understand it, but it happened.
So I wonder, because soil is alkaline, remember in the country, pregnant women would crave dirt?
Yes. And I ate a lot when I was pregnant with all three of my children. I used to eat white clay dirt.
Did you really?
Yes, I did. My doctors thought I was crazy, but I did. And it didn't bother me. I just had the craving for it. And there's a name for it. But yes, I had a craving for that. I'm glad I had a craving for that. And some people have the craving for Argo starch.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Dr. Tamia Bethea-Williams, how are your other children doing, and how
they are absolutely amazing.
How did all of this impact them and integrating their brother into their lives?
Oh, well, his sisters are very, very protective of him. My oldest one is 31 now. She lives in Ohio. And my baby girl, who is 19, Chantel, she goes to Benedict University in South Carolina. And they are both very, very protective of Damien. I used to notice when they would bring their friends around, sometimes they would feel a bit uncomfortable having to explain why my brother is staring or why my brother is, is standing there or whatever. Why is he not talking? Why does he need help with this? And so, but now if they have friends that don't understand and don't accept their brother, they're no longer their friends. And so they've got to a place in their life where they tell people that, yes, I have a very special brother, and they're okay with that. But in the beginning, being young girls, and having a brother that has some challenges, it was not easy sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But now,
Please, he's the king of their hearts. And he walks around talking about, I'm the man. I'm the man.
He says that?
Yes, he says it all the time. I'm the man.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Like, Damien, go somewhere and sit down somewhere.
Look, somewhere and sit down. That is just
go somewhere and sit down somewhere. Go somewhere and sit down.
Yeah. I actually, somebody posted that in their Facebook post, and they actually spelled it out somewhere. Get somewhere and sit down.
Oh boy.
Bilingual. We are that. And Sharon posted where we can find the article that she wrote.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Our mother was not angry. She was just sad. It brought tears to my eyes to see, because I think so many times we as women go through and carry so much. And when we dare have an emotion about it, we automatically get labeled as whatever the label might be, whether it's whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we're not given the space to feel everything that the woman on the ship was feeling when she was snatched from her home.
Yes.
And brought here, and all that they went through up until this present moment. And my mother and father, born during an era of Jim Crow, and the fear that they lived with, the constant fear living in the South, and then being poor on top of that. But the fear of what would happen to your Black family when your husband leaves, when your child leaves, will they come back home? And so, because we don't have the space to process that, we get labeled, and we don't have an opportunity to move past it and then come into where you are, in those walls coming down, so that we can live out our full purpose. We're able to keep moving and not take our purpose to the grave.
Yes.
Doctor, pastor, my sister, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
You are so welcome, and thank you for having me, and your listening audience for being so patient. And listen, I want to thank all of you. Really, God has truly been good to me, and I know that. It's not just something that I'm saying; it's something that I know, and to Him I give all the glory. And I know that those of you that are listening, there is nothing that you cannot do. There's nothing that you cannot be. You cannot have. You cannot give. If you want it, it's yours. Just step into your purpose. Step into it. Everything will work itself out. You got this.
Everything will work itself out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, this has been such a blessing. Such a blessing. I've been sitting here like a child in school, and I really, really appreciate you speaking into my life, into our lives. I will also encourage you all to watch. My sister Sharon is going to do a Facebook Live actually talking about special needs children and childcare during this pandemic time, how her parents are having to cope. That is going to be at noon on Friday after Thanksgiving. On LinkedIn, LinkedIn and Facebook, on Facebook and LinkedIn. And because she said she had not heard anything being said about how families with special needs children are coping during these very, very difficult times. It's difficult enough with children and schools closing and daycares closing, but how do you manage? How do you keep going? How do you help take care of your family when you need to go to work and, and your children are at home. So take a listen and watch. And again, what an example that network marketing does work.
It does. I'm a witness.
I gotta get busy. Again, thank you so much. And thank all of you for watching on Facebook, on YouTube, listening on our podcast and on the radio station at thewellnessnetwork.org. This very powerful conversation through our Sisters of Wellness series, sewing into the lives of women and families all across our community. That's what our charge is. It tells us in Titus that older women teach the young women, and some young women can teach us too. So we are to be helpers of one another and build this bond of kinetic energy that we are all lifting each other up, and where I may fall short, you're my strength, and vice versa. So what a lovely, lovely evening I've spent, and I hope that you share those same sentiments. Until next time, Dr. Tamiya, we look forward to our next time together. And for all of you, have a fantastic Thanksgiving holiday. Be safe. Take care of you and your families. And if you need to know more about Enagic Water and the water machine, you can message me or message Dr. Tamiya, and we will make sure that you get set up so that you can be whole, powerful, strong, loving, and harmonious. Because when you get the inside right, the outside is right. Until next time, I'm Pamela Marshall at the Wellness Radio TV and at the Wellness Radio TV podcast. Remember, there is healing at the well. Make it a fantastic moment.